So I basically finished AIE 2017, doing the advanced diploma in game design, and I've spent most of this year trying to follow that up and find a publisher for a project. And here's some ups and downs and twists and turns of that gnarly adventure. Yeah, cool. So I think I covered that. What a year. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had a roller coaster of a year. It's a common story, especially in this field, right? It's ups and downs, twists and turns, upside downs, the works. So yeah, I'm going to just cover a few little things that have popped up along the way that I thought were relevant or helpful for me. And, if you think there's value there, that's awesome. And if you don't, then that's totally cool. Just dismiss it. It's not worth your time. Groovy. So recently I went through some experiences that were like super cool. Like, oh my God, something's finally happening. Some cool shit's on the horizon. This is wicked. And then stuff happened. It was amazing. And then soon after that, it was like, oh man, some really bad, heavy shit's happening. And this is all seeming like it's going to collapse. And it was like, man, I feel like this is just snakes and ladders. And I'm just trying to work my way up the board. And sometimes things help push me forward. And then sometimes I feel like things just slide me way back down again. And it's just been a series of these ups and downs constantly for the whole time that I've been chasing this dream of becoming, a game designer and working in the games industry. So I thought I'd write up a little example of how it's like snakes and ladders, and I threw this to a few of my designer buddies, and they were like, yeah, I can relate, I get that, I see what you mean, that makes sense. So like things like in game development, you're going to go through issues. Losing a team member, that's something that's happened to me multiple times, working on large-ish projects, 2 years into a project, and then the lead programmer's like, hey, I'm out, I'm moving, it was great. And then it's like, that's not cool, like, what am I going to do? I'll start from scratch again. That's happened a few times to me. That's something that I'd consider one of those backslides where you just think, man, I was here, and now I'm back down here again, and I'm having to work my way back up. Things like funding cuts or, deals that fall through, publishers that go, hey, yeah, no, this sounds really, really great. Let's kick it off in a month. And then 3 weeks later they go, no, I'm out. Don't want to do it anymore. You get thrown so many of these challenges on the journey. And a takeaway from that is that, like, what are you going to do? Just walk away and give up and just say, well, that's really shit and poor me, and now I'll just go and live a different life. It's like, well, no, man, and just keep pushing forward. But then there's also a lot of ladder moments, meeting the right people and making the right connections, creating a project or working on a project that actually gets some kind of attention and put yourself out there. There's those moments where you just really feel like, sorry if that's loud in the microphone, where you really feel like you get a boost forwards. Sorry about that. And yeah, there's just like a whole series of these things. And I figure like, some of these examples are relevant to me. But I'm sure like everyone in this room has got their own examples of some of the experiences they've had of things like totally just boosting forward and feeling like, hey, this is it, things are happening and it's good. And then also those moments of just feeling like things are just crumbling all around you. Anyway, I should like boost through this. These were like 30-second slides in my mind, man. And hit me up if you got questions. Hey, I'd rather aim this at anyone who's got questions rather than just me go blah, 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 blah. So like, yeah, let's play, right? So, I mean, I wrote this example up, and if you can read some of these little examples, there's plenty there, like squabbles over poor lunch choices. That can be a real problem. And a similar game gets released just when you're wanting to release a game. I mean, there's a crazy story of that happening to a crew here at Game Plus, where they're working on a game and all of a sudden there's a game with the same name, with similar mechanics, with a person with the same name working on it. Insane, right? And then you hear these other stories where, like, it seems that developers will just, like, they'll just roll the lucky dice, you know? They just land on, they'll roll a 3 and land here, and then roll a 5 and land here, and then roll a 1 and they're published, they're out there, they're making money, they're working on games. And I think the important thing there is, like, not comparing with that, because that's a lucky roll. Like, they could give you their dice and you're not going to roll the same numbers again, you know? Like, what was lucky for some is not necessarily going to be the case for everybody. So it's really great to make a distinction that, hey, you know, like, just because it happened to them doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. And everybody's got a different path. Everyone's got a different path on the way up. And the cool thing about this game we call game development is that you can't lose unless you give up. So I think that's super cool, super important. And when we look at it like it is a game, it's fun, right? Just the journey is fun. We like doing it, you know? Those hard backslide moments are like super, super shit, but they're part of it. They're part of this journey. Like, we said, yeah, we want to do it. This is what we want to do. And in saying that, we're accepting that this is going to happen. You're going to come across some real heavy moments, and you're going to come up against some adversity. That's the game. We like games that throw that at us. We like playing Mario Kart and winning, and we know that a blue shell could just absolutely smash us when we think the finish line's in sight. So it's really important to just think about it like the journey is a game, and it in itself is fun. The process is fun, and even the hard moments are fun, and they build that resilience. So I think that's a good point. So cool. So yeah, a few things throughout the year, just learning like where some value is. I think the social currency is a good way to put it, of just like people can become your ladders. Like, if you make good relationships and you have good connections with people, they're the ones that can really give you a kick in the right direction and give you a leg up. The right person that you know might know the right person that you need to get to the step you want to be. And, you know, you might meet someone and just be a bit of a dick to them because you're like, who's this person? They don't matter, whatever. But then they turn out to be the person who could connect you with someone really important, and you've just almost burnt a bridge there and stuff. And I just think that the nicest you can be to everybody that you even come across is just the absolute best way to be. And you're not going to love everyone. You're not going to get along with everyone. You're going to butt heads and all the rest of it. But if you sincerely in your heart are trying to be a nice person to like all the people you meet, that's just such a great way to get a leg up in the industry, where, you know, it's a hard slog and doing it alone is really difficult. But when you've got people around you, it makes it so much easier, and it's awesome. Yeah, and reaching out for advice. Like, it's a crazy journey. You're going to come up against situations where you just have no idea what the best course of action is. What do I do here? Like, this is on the table. I don't know how to go about it. Asking as many people as you can for advice and seeking advice from people in positions that are doing similar things to where you want to be is just so valuable. And it's been so helpful for me to be able to have people around me with killer advice, and they put you on the right track, you know? So important. This cherry picking advice from multiple sources. A friend of mine said, be careful with that line, man. People can take that the wrong way. I was like, yeah, right, okay. What I mean by that is, like, it's good to ask as many people as you can for opinions on ways to go about a certain you know, problem that you might be having. And between all the people you ask, you can really figure out what's the best solution for you. It's personal. You ask one person, forget that, mate. You just do this. You go, oh, yeah, shit. All right, I'll do that, and you do it, and it doesn't work for you. It's not you. That's not you. That's not the way you work. So it's really important to figure out what's relevant to you. and cherry pick that great advice and ask as many people as you can. I think that's helpful for me. Yeah, more about people, not just the industry people, family and friends, man, so important. People to debrief with, just your family that you can rely on when you spent too much money trying to get overseas to be at a games thing, and then you came back broke. Like, Mum, can I have $100 again? So important, so important. As sad as it kind of sounds, it's just like I'd be lost without my mother. So yeah, just reiterating, like, just the people. The work's fantastic. Working hard is really great. The project's great, but the people are just so important, and those connections. Yeah, seize the moment. This is when it turns into a bit more of a philosophy lecture, which you're probably not here for. So I'll skim over it. Hustling, man, it just gives you more rolls of the dice. If you're working hard and you're saying, hey, like, I really want to play Season 7 Fortnite and try those planes out, it looks sick. But I've got a bunch of work that I could get done by tomorrow. If you're hustling more, you're giving yourself more chances to roll the dice. You're giving yourself more chances to get up. More opportunities will come your way. So really important. If you miss an opportunity, that's gone. The ship's sailed. You're not going to get that back again. And yeah, if you really want something, and I think we all do, right? Like, in this industry, it's like this passion. Like, we love this stuff and we want it. We want it bad. So you should work as hard as you want it. If you want it really bad, work for it. If you just say, like, oh, I really want it, I'd love to do this, but I'm playing Fortnite all day, every day, like, it's just not going to happen. Forget it, But, treat yourself, have some time off, have a glass of wine. Yeah, more philosophy, clear vision. I think this, it's a life thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be just about games. But for me, when I sort of started really telling myself, what do I want? Where do I want to be? What project do I want to make? How do I want my project to be perceived? Where do I see myself? Where do I see my project? Being super clear about those goals and aspirations really allows you to figure out what steps you need to take to get there. And I think that's really important. Cool, so onto the publishy kind of stuff, which is, yeah, groovy. So I didn't want to talk about, like, personal things so much, because you could get bogged down in some of the details. But during the year, I did have some experiences with publishers early in the year that were sort of interested in publishing a project, and they pulled out 5 days before the start date that we'd sort of agreed upon, that was the backslide, that was like, yeah, killer moment. And then since then, sort of try to keep pushing forward. Lucy, do you have a question, mate? I'm not going to say that. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, well, that was the thing, right? So part of this story is that a person, which goes back to the whole people power thing, he was like, hey, we've applied for this thing, this games connection thing. It's in Paris. You can show your games there. You apply, and if they like your game, you can get nominated for an award, and then you get to exhibit for free, which means you pay for a plane ticket and some accommodation, but you don't have to pay for exhibitor space and all the rest of it, which costs about $2,500 or something like that to actually, have a booth and show your stuff. And this dude was like, hey man, if you get nominated, you get that for free. And it's a good opportunity. So I was like, cool, that sounds good. I was like, what do you need to do? He's like, you need to apply on this website and it's due tomorrow. I was like, all right, man. And I had an all-nighter. Like, I stayed up till, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the morning to fill this form out. I had to come up with a vector logo of my company name or something. Like, shit, man, I work in vector and I've never actually exported a vector graphic in my life. So I was like learning new things at the same time. Anyway, I applied for it, and crazily enough, a few months later, it got accepted. and it did get nominated, and I got to go over to Paris to kind of show the game off, which was just an amazing opportunity. But what I learned from that was like, you know, when you think about publishers, it's like Nintendo and Sony, man, like our favorites, like Namco and Konami. Grew up with that, love it. But it's like, I didn't even see these dudes when I was there. I saw like the publishers you've never even heard of, the ones like on the fringes, you know? And it was like, holy shit, hang on a minute. There's not 20 publishers in the world. There's hundreds, like maybe thousands of them. And I think that was a real sort of poignant moment for me where I was like, oh my God, this isn't just a small handful. There's lots and lots out there. Which also means that you can kind of really shop around for the publisher that suits your project, you know? What publisher has published games similar to what you're making? Like, find out about those guys. So that was really cool. Really great to find that out. So a little bit about, you know, pitching to the publishers. And if you've got questions about this stuff, please hit me up. I wanted to skim over it a bit because, you know, you can get pretty deep on this stuff. But yeah, the obvious thing is like these publishers will sit there and listen to pitches over and over and over and over. That's what they do. They sit there and listen to pitches. So when you rock up and it's your moment, you know, to you it's like this thing, but for them it's like, I've done this like 10 times today. Like what? Show me something. I think a dude on the last day when I was over in Paris was just like, please show me something good. I've been looking at shit for like 2 days. I was like, well, you've come to the right spot, mate. Sit down. So like, yeah, keeping it concise and using bullet points, the stuff I should have been doing for this talk, which I haven't kind of stuck to, keeping it concise. Thanks, Lucy. So yeah, bullet points, just really refining, distilling what it is about your game and your project and you that you want to get across. Take away all the fluff. They don't need to know the deep inner workings of your brilliant mind and how you came up with this incredible idea. You know, they don't care about those details. They just want to know, like, you know, the facts. Yeah, the confidence coming from a belief in the project. Like if you're into what you're making and you think it's cool and it's worth a publisher's time and their money, which of course you do if you're reaching out and trying to pitch to a publisher for money, it's like you're going to believe in it. And that will give you that confidence that like, hey, I've got no problem looking at you in the eye and saying, hey, if you give us $250,000, like we'll turn this game into something awesome, like, and believe in it. I think that's really helpful because you don't want to be sort of sitting there going, shit, yeah, just give the money and it's a lot of money and that'll be cool. It's like, yeah, but it's for something that you think is worth it. So I think that's really important. And then back to like the people thing, like just being polite, being friendly and nice. Publishers might say, hey man, that's a sick game. I love it. What a concept. It's brilliant, genius. It would fit so perfectly in our umbrella of what we publish. But you're a dickhead, mate. So you're out. You know, it's like, it's so important that you're not just selling the game. They have to work with you. You have to liaise with them. You have to take phone calls or Skype calls, depending on where they are, and you have to email back and forward. So it's a relationship that they're investing in as well. And I think that's just super important that, like, just be awesome to people, man, if you can. Yeah. I probably just covered most of this stuff. No, some of it. Cool. So, yeah, being proactive with publishers, especially if you've met publishers and they're in different time zones, which there's not a whole range of publishers in Australia. So there's a chance that if you find one, they will be in a different time zone, which means that conversations don't happen. They don't just roll from one thing to the next during a day. It's like it takes a whole day just to get one piece of information back and forward. So if you miss a day and you're too busy, I'll reply the next day, time drags on. And from my experience early in the year with the publisher that I was sort of liaising with, that time dragging on, it kills it. It's just like, forget it, you know. This should have been kicking off months ago here. Yeah, professional, but let some personality show. I think that's important. Like, you're serious, you want to do this. This is, you're into it. You're not going to just faff around. But hey, I'm a human being. I've got thoughts and feelings, and I'm an individual. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself. But you really need to knuckle down and show that you're going to be serious and professional about it. Yeah, and also the information that sling back and forward between publishers. Like, if they're asking you questions, just to simply like type up a quick answer and send it. It's like, you know, it's just super helpful to have other eyes look over your stuff, just to like check that your spelling and grammar is okay and all the rest of it, but also that you're nailing the points or not talking too much about some things that you don't need to mention yet. And I've had a lot of experiences of people pulling me up on stuff that I'd written and saying, no, you just don't talk about the money yet, mate. Just leave that bit, It's like, yeah, cool. So it's really important to have somebody else, even if they're not in the industry or professionals, they're just, family members, just to look over your work. It's really important and makes a big difference and can save a few blunders. Coolio. So like getting in contact with publishers just seemed to be such a, sort of like it's a mirage, it's in the distance, it's for somebody else. How do you do it? They're elusive. But then since kind of going through a few experiences, you can learn that things like there's online publishing sites where you can put your pitch online, and publishers, a whole bunch of publishers, like some of the ones I mentioned before, Konami's and Namco's, they'll use these sites to look for new projects and stuff like that. So you don't need to get somewhere overseas or to conventions to get onto a developer's lap. You can a publisher's lap. You can upload stuff. I don't remember the site that I saw that does this, which is terrible of me. But they exist, and they're out there, and they're worth it. I also wanted to mention that I got to Game Connection earlier this year, but they do it twice a year. There's another one happening March next year in San Francisco, and applications for that close on the 18th of December. So like I had a day to try and get my application in. There's still another week or so for the next one coming up. So if any of you guys do have projects that you're working on and that you'd like to apply for something like this and get an opportunity like that, you totally need to check it out. Just go to Game Connection, just Google Game Connection, and there's a link straight in the top saying submit your project. I'd just recommend it because it's just absolutely worth a shot. And also lastly is using sites like GameJolt and itch.io and stuff like that, where you can put your games up online for free for people to play. Just great for many reasons, like just A, people you don't know are playing your game, you can get great feedback. But B, like some publishers go on there and they check games out and they'll contact you if they like it. So it's like, if you don't have anything out there, how's anyone going to find you? So it's just, it's a long shot, but it's worth a shot, I reckon, to just put your stuff out there and make sure you're giving yourself the best chance to be seen. Cool. Any questions? I mean, yeah, sorry for rattling on. But yeah, I think that sort of covers the stuff I wanted to say. Yes, Mikey? No. Next question. No, it's still happening. Things are good, but it's still in the process. But yeah. Michael.
Because your audience doesn't know who's on the other end of the camera, what's the name of your game?
I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah, no. Yeah, some of it's under an NDA anyway, so I can't actually talk about certain things. The game that I was aiming to get published is not the game that I'm kind of currently trying to push forward and get published. So yeah, and it's under agreements where I can't actually like just chat endlessly about it. So yeah, I'm sorry.
The one that didn't go quite so well, how long was that, like from A to, like from the starting of that
Yeah.
to like it
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. So I think just right at the beginning of the year, it was probably mid-February, or about February, just start of Feb, that a publisher reached out and said, "Hey, we saw your game on Game Jolt, and we think it would be great on the Nintendo Switch. Do you want us to publish it?" And we're like, "Yeah, of course we do." Daft question. They said, "All right, well, what do you need?" And we're like, "Cash, like a lot of cash." And to us at the time, we were like, 150,000, like we need a lot of money. And they're like, "All right, cool, let's talk about it." And we're like, "What? I thought you were going to say no, what?" So then we talked about it, and then we kept talking about it, and kept talking about it, and kept talking about it, and we were set to kick off on July the 5th. And then so by like June the 30th or whatever, it was off. So 5 months. And a lot of that was like, okay, cool, you want to get this game off the ground. You've got IP stuff to sort out. So before you can go ahead with this, you need to check off with X team members and people who've worked on the game, who's going to get what and who's entitled to what if it kicks off and all the rest of it. And that's just, it's just so much back and forth and negotiating, and that time drags on. And that's the sort of thing where publishers like, "That's what's going on, mate. Like, we've been talking about IPs and contracts for like a month and a half, and we wanted to get this game out by Christmas. It's not going to happen." So yeah, so that was the time frame. Mike.
Yeah, so you mentioned this site where you can put game pictures online and so on. You're saying like there's, like you just put a game design
Not
software,
pictures of your game.
no pictures, pictures in presentation,
Yes, yes.
pics and things
Yeah, I was
that are
being
in
cheeky.
software.
Yep. Mm.
So are you saying publishers go to this site and just like look at game pictures and
Yeah.
like get back to you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, which is why I was spewing that I couldn't find the link for it to put it up. I'll try and find it and share it on the page.
When did you get some results out of this personally?
No, no, but I thought, geez, like if things hadn't sort of picked up where they did, that was something that I was really interested in. So someone came up to me and said, "Hey, by the way, check this out. Here's some info."
So there is like stories of a friend having a success, having a publisher contact them just by having stuff on this site.
Sure, I don't know that friend,
If not, we could make one up.
but they assured me that there are. Yeah, we could make one up. Yeah, a future friend I haven't met yet. So yeah, basically they just showed me a whole list of like publishers that use the site, a whole list of just projects like that have been 2,000 projects, 200 publishers, blah blah blah, and so you put all your pitch material up there. They said the more material, the better. So make sure you got this and that, and it'll just give you a whole list. You can put half the stuff up if you want, but they say the more the better, the chance.
You had some success on spontaneous contact from HIO, didn't you? Where you got your game up on HIO and someone got in touch with you.
Yeah, that was on Game Jolt.
Better to say, I've got a game and it's already made, and I've got an idea for a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Having some kind of working prototype or working model of the game is really important. But one thing I did find that these publishers don't really care about just how polished or how finished it is. They just want to know there's a core mechanic and it works and it's got promise. So they really look past the little, the details. So I was like, "Oh, sorry, the game's like brutally hard and it's like the balance is off, and I should have fixed the balance." They're like, "I don't care. I mean, just hit some shit and then we're good. I get the vibe. It's fine."
They're only going to play the game for
20 seconds, man. In
level up to level 40 in the game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was Game Jolt where these guys sort of saw our game and was like, "Oh, cool, like this looks interesting," which I didn't think happened, to be honest. I didn't realize. There you go. Yep, spreading the knowledge. Yeah, cool. Anyone else? Did you have a question before?
Question, which is, so is there anything you think Australian publishers could do to improve their standing in the industry?
Like, yeah, oh, guess like yeah, I don't know. I don't know what, you know. I'm not. Uh, I don't know of so many Australian publishers. You know, I think Surprise Attack. They're like the sort of biggest Australian publisher. Fellow Traveller, right? Okay. They've they've upped it. They've changed the name. Why? Fair enough, though. Yeah, cool. I mean, they're the only ones that I've heard of, and it's just, I mean, you'd just like to see more of them around, more opportunities, and yeah, I guess more of a presence. I think Trobs is probably a good one to ask about that stuff. Like Matt Trobiani's had that experience with Fellow Traveller. That's ridiculous. That's cool though.
Although at the same time, the only benefit an Australian publisher has for you is here at the same time zone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You almost feel like
Probably best off if you do a shotgun approach, looking well beyond Australia.
yeah, absolutely. Like that was the thing is like you know, looking for publishers in Australia, and that was something that we'd sort of looked into in the early stages of like, cool, we're in Australia, let's find a publisher. It's like, hello, where are they? Oh, these guys are the one. And that's why I think it was just so gnarly to, you know, to rock up to a place and see like hundreds of them, and I was like, oh my god, they're everywhere, and yeah, so I think it doesn't really answer your question thoroughly, but you know, covering around those points, yeah, but like outside of Australia, there's just so much more going on, and also like start at the top, like who do you want to be with? Like go for those guys. If they say no, go one step down, work your way down from the top, and also, you know, just seeing what publishers are into. You know, if that's in line with what you're making, that's a really good shot. So we had a bunch of publishers really into the game, saying, "Oh, this is a cool game, but we do real-time strategies, you know, and this is an action game, but we love it. We're just not going to put money into it." So in that regard, it's just really important to sort of like do a bit of research on what the publishers are into, what sort of games they've published before, and then try and hit those points. Hey, man. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, like, yeah, it's a good one. It's a bit of a cheap comment on my behalf to go, oh, just, you know, do your research. I did none, you know. I think, so part of the deal when, if you get accepted into something like Games Connection, there's an app called Let's Meet that allows you to basically just reach out to any number of publishers and say, hey, like, I'm going to be there, you're going to be there, let's meet. If they accept it, it's cool, it locks it in. They might reject it. A few of them rejected it, like, it's fine. But once they've accepted it, it's sort of like, cool, who are these guys? What the hell have they done before? Like, and that's where the research came from. So I think I met with about 15 publishers over 3 days, and each one of them we researched, you know, on the lead up sort of thing. Like you do your groundwork when they accept it and you go, cool, who are these guys? And then like on the day or the night before, you just do that little recap, like, these are the guys that made this game and this series and stuff like that. So, so yeah, I mean, probably not something you just start diving into hundreds of publishers and looking, but you know, games similar to what you're trying to make, if you know of a game that you like that's similar, you find out who published that. That's a good start, you know. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Anybody else? Yes, Adam. Yeah, it's a good one. You have to go by feel, don't you? Sort of, it's like, I really need to know what's going on, but I really don't want to be that pushy. And often they're busy. It's not like they've forgotten or they don't care. They can be really busy. So I think, you know, you have to really trust your intuition that, you know, if something's important and some information you need to move on is at stake, that it's okay to just reach out and say, hey, just checking in. You know, you said you'd hit me up last week. It hasn't happened. What's going on? But then again, yeah, you just don't want to be knocking on their door, and they're like, yeah, dude, I told you, you know, we'll be ready when we're ready. So yeah, I wouldn't have any like actual poignant advice on that, but it's just go for feel and, like you said, find that balance, you know, because you want to show that you're proactive and persistent, but without being a bit too like over the top. Hey, Mikey.
But what if they don't give you a date on when they're gonna let you know something? Would you still keep persisting then and give us a date, or else we're gonna go somewhere else?
Would you persist?
I wouldn't persist. I'd go somewhere else.
There's your answer, man. Sweet. Cool. Is anyone else? Is that? I don't know how much time we got here, Adam. I feel like I've done, you know, as much as I want. I'm happy up here. I thought I'd be all like, oh, I love it. Let's keep going. Nah, we're good. Has anyone else got any questions? Half, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So a bit of that animation sort of leaks into the design work. Like I still like to design very visually, so using, you know, images to portray mechanics rather than just words. But then, you know, I've worked on projects where, you know, I'm steering the animation. Like, hey guys, the animators, you know, like we want it to look like this, real snappy, real poppy, blah blah blah. And then I will get hands-on for something that just looks like it just needs that bit of finesse that they didn't quite get or something like that. So it kind of depends on the project. So what I've been working on at the moment, I have been animating it as well as designing, and that's just super awesome because you've just got that control. Like, you know how you want it to look, and you just make it. So I think, yeah, that's, you know, if I could have it my way, I'd love to animate and design all of it all the time. But having said that, it's super incredible to have other people working with you who can lighten that load. You know, if you've got other animators that can do it, it's just brilliant. Hey, Kathy.
You don't have to answer this, but what percentage would the publishers have taken?
It varies on the publishers. I think your general kind of rev split would be, you know, 80-20, 70-30. Theirs, yeah, no. Like rev shares will change over time. So basically, I think you can expect to get a lot more of the rev split if you're not requiring funding. You just want the publishing. But if you make the game yourself and you just need a publisher, you'll get 70%, maybe. Whereas if they fund the project, they want their money back before they're going to start giving you a cut. Or if they do, they'll give you a tiny cut. And then when they've got their money back, then you can expect to see a little bit more of the rev share. But it's totally case sensitive. There's no rule book there. It's like each publisher's got their own, like, this is what we do. Yeah.
So just on that, outside of funding, that's pretty obvious. Can you go into at all what publishers can do for someone? Because everyone goes, oh, I need a publisher, but then that means what you get out of a publisher.
Yeah. There's a fair bit to explore there with publishers and the roles they play, because there's some that just want to take care of certain things themselves. We've got the QA team that we use, or we've got these people that we use. But again, it's pretty case specific. I think things like marketing and stuff like that is something that publishers will often be happy to do themselves, which is like, hey, that's awesome. Like, please do, because I don't know anything about that. But yeah, I think there's quite a few areas, and I'm just not experienced enough to really say like this is the stuff they can do. But often they will have a range of different things they'll bring to the table as far as development goes. So like, we'll pay you to do the design and the art and the programming, and we'll take care of the marketing and the QA and the, you know, localization and things like that, stuff like that. Yeah. And yeah, if you've just got other questions you want to ask, but not in front of a whole group of people, just come and source me out and ask me. And I'm always happy to chat. As most of you know, I won't shut up. Otherwise, yeah, hit me up on an email or Facebook or whatever. I think there's some that. Yeah, cool. All good? Sweet. Thank you.